The fire alarm chirped at 6:03 a.m., low battery. Like everything else in my life lately, it was warning me too late. I was halfway through buttering toast when my wife, Elise, walked into the kitchen, phone in hand, lips pressed tight like she'd been chewing on a secret all morning. "You left the garage door open last night," she said. "No good morning. No kiss. Just that." I nodded, half listening, already dressed for a staff meeting I wasn't paid enough to lead. The usual Tuesday shuffle. Coffee, toast, maybe a sigh thrown in for flair. What I didn't know, what no man ever really expects, is that this particular Tuesday was going to tear open my life like an envelope soaked in gasoline. At exactly 7:17 a.m., the first crack appeared. Elise's phone buzzed, screen lit up, and I caught it by accident. One word again. From a contact named Art Supply. Elise wasn't an artist. Hasn't painted since college. I bought her an easel 2 Christmases ago. It's still in the garage, right next to the unopened box of oil pastels. Dusty. Untouched. Like our affection. She flipped her phone screen down before I could ask. "Client text," she muttered. "Don't worry about it." Which is what people always say right before they give you something to worry about. I didn't press. I just nodded, took my coffee to the car, and promised myself I was overthinking. Maybe it was a work thing. Maybe she had a surprise planned. Maybe I was still dumb enough to believe in maybes. At 10:46 a.m., my work laptop froze. Some glitch in the system, IT said. While they remote accessed my life, I sat in my office, spinning a pen and thinking about Elise's face lately. How it had become unreadable. My phone buzzed. Lunch. Liam. I stared at the name. My brother. I hadn't seen him in months. He was always between jobs, between girlfriends, between explanations. But he had good timing. I needed distraction. We met at a cheap taco place near the courthouse. He ordered like he'd been here before. I didn't ask. "I'm surprised you answered," he said. "You've been MIA. Life's been busy." He raised an eyebrow. "Busy like Elise's work trips?" I paused. That was a word bomb. Casual tone. Direct hit. What's that supposed to mean? He chewed slowly, too slowly. "Nothing. Just. I saw her last week. Downtown. Near that gallery on 6th. Wasn't she at that conference in Albany?" He shrugged. "Guess she made a pit stop." She wasn't alone. I stared at him, my taco halfway to my mouth, like it might still save the day. "Guy in a camel coat," Liam added. "Tall. Handsy." They didn't look professional. I didn't flinch. I just set the taco down like it had personally betrayed me. Because that was the moment everything twisted, the breadcrumb I didn't want, but couldn't ignore. That night, I checked her laptop. I never snoop. But something about Elise's calm lately felt wrong. Too still. Like the silence after the last guest leaves a party and you realize the house isn't yours anymore. I didn't need a password. She was careless that way. Her emails were boring. Her browser history, not so much. Hidden under innocuous tabs, a Pinterest board titled Rebranding Spaces. Which, as it turned out, was code for romantic getaways. I clicked through one of the saved links. A boutique hotel in upstate New York. Room with a fireplace. Perfect for couples, the tagline read. It was booked. Under her name. 2 weekends ago. I sat there for 10 minutes, just staring at the reservation like it might burst into flames and leave me with plausible deniability. Then I heard her come in. Keys jangling, voice on the phone, light laughter. Carefree, as if nothing burned. She walked past the office. I minimized the screen. She paused in the doorway. "You okay?" she asked. "Just tired," I said. She nodded, smiled softly. "You work too hard." She kissed the top of my head and walked on. And in that moment, with the ghost of her lips on my scalp and a screen full of lies behind me, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. This wasn't the kind of story that ended with shouting matches and thrown wine glasses. No, this was going to be quieter, smarter, slower. Because if Elise had turned our marriage into a game, I was finally ready to play. The next morning, I opened an anonymous email. No message, just a photo attachment. Elise. Same camel-coated man. Different city. Caption. Thought you should know what she calls yoga class. I didn't open the photo right away. Funny how your brain starts bartering the moment it senses a truth it doesn't want to know. Maybe it's an old picture. Maybe it's doctored. Maybe it's not her. Maybe camel coat is just an unfortunate coincidence. But when I finally opened it, every maybe disintegrated. It was Elise. Hair in that lazy bun she only does on Sundays. No makeup. Wearing my old hoodie, the one she claimed was too frumpy for public but apparently just right for secret getaways. The man beside her was tall, sharp jawline, expensive watch, and, yes, a camel coat. His hand was on her waist. Hers was on his chest. They weren't hiding. They weren't glancing around. They looked like regulars. Like they belonged. No timestamp. No location. Just a single image, but it said more than any confession ever could. I stared at it until the screen went dark. Then I forwarded it to a secret folder I created that morning, right after Liam's little lunch bomb. I titled it, Evidence, because I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was building a case. That evening, Elise was humming in the kitchen. She hummed when she was happy, or when she thought she had everything under control. I watched her from the hallway, leaning just enough to see her dance between the cutting board and the sink. She was making Thai, her specialty, which, I realized now, wasn't a peace offering, it was a habit. That was her trick. Routine is disguise. I walked in, kissed her cheek like I always did. She smiled like she deserved it. How was work? She asked. Uneventful, I said, which, to be fair, was a lie. Because after the photo, I did something I wasn't proud of. I created a fake profile. Simple, subtle. A man named Evan. Same city. Different zip code. A vague career in consulting. A casual smile in his photos. And guess who showed up in the search results within an hour? Elise. Name slightly altered. But the photo was unmistakable. Her, out with the girls, look, tousled hair, soft eyeliner, pout barely restrained. Her profile said, New to this. Exploring connections. Discretion matters. Connections. Discretion. Cute. I didn't message her. Not yet. I wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went. That night, while she showered, I went to the guest room, fired up my laptop, and watched as messages rolled in. 2 men she talked to. One of them sent her a meme about trusting your gut. Her reply? Mine tells me to lie sometimes. It's a survival tactic. That was when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a woman making a mistake. I was married to someone performing an entire version of herself depending on the audience. The Elise I got was spreadsheets, grocery lists, and birthday reminders. The version these men saw? She was mysterious, playful, single, and I couldn't stop reading. Every word was another dropped stitch in the fabric I thought we were sewing together. The next morning, over coffee, Elise told me she was going to her mother's that weekend. Just a girls' weekend. Wine, terrible movies. You know the drill. I nodded. Tell her I said hi. She kissed my cheek and squeezed my shoulder. Like a woman who'd already packed her lies next to her overnight bag. That night, a message appeared in my inbox. From him. The man in the camel coat. No name. Just a subject line. You're not as invisible as she thinks. I stared at the email like it might grow teeth. You're not as invisible as she thinks. No body text. No signature. Just an attachment, a blurry photo of me outside our house. Taken from across the street, probably through a windshield. I was in sweatpants, taking out the trash, which, apparently, now qualified as surveillance material. My first thought? He was close. My second? He was bold. Most men sneaking around with someone else's wife don't message the husband. But this wasn't just about Elise anymore. This was about me. I didn't show her the message. Didn't mention it while we made dinner or while she scrolled through social media on the couch. She laughed at something on her phone. I wondered if it was him. Camel coat. I really needed to find out his real name. You don't psychologically dismantle a man you can't identify. So, I called in a favor. Liam knew a guy, works in private security, used to be military, now gets paid to stop people legally. I sent him the photo and a cropped shot of the hotel reservation Elise had accidentally left open. Give me 48 hours, the guy texted. We'll know what kind of snake you're dealing with. Saturday morning, Elise left early. She smelled like that travel-sized perfume she only uses when she wants to be remembered. She waved at me from the driveway like a sitcom wife. Blew a kiss I didn't return. I gave her a 5-hour head start, then drove in the opposite direction. Not toward her. Not yet. Instead, I went downtown, to the gallery on 6th. Liam had mentioned it once, that he saw them together there. It was an upscale little place, the kind of spot with abstract art, tiny nameplates, and free wine that tastes expensive because it's served in stemless glasses. I walked in like I belonged, nodded at the bored-looking woman behind the desk, and drifted through the hall until I found what I was looking for. A photo exhibit. black and white portraits. All candid. Every one titled with a name and a single word. And there he was, on the back wall, smirking. Julian, unbound. Julian. Of course. Even his name sounded like someone who'd quote poetry in a stolen bed. According to the plaque, he was a photographer. Freelance. Did exhibits, taught workshops, and, here's the kicker, hosted creative retreats at lakeside cabins. Retreats. Code for affairs with emotional lighting. I walked back to my car and sat there in silence. Now I had a name. Now it was real. But I didn't feel rage. Not exactly. What I felt was strategy. That night, I got another email. No words. Just a screenshot. It was Elise's dating profile. The one I'd seen as Evan. Only this time, her bio had changed. In a situationship. Complicated. Open to clarity. Clarity? Oh, Elise. You have no idea what kind of clarity I'm capable of. Sunday morning, I opened the front door to find a small envelope on the welcome mat. Inside, a Polaroid. Elise. In the cabin. On Julian's lap. They were laughing. And she was wearing the necklace I gave her on our 4th anniversary. On the back of the photo, someone had scribbled one word in thick black ink. Ouch. I stared at the Polaroid for a full minute. Not in shock. That part was long gone. Not even in anger. Just cataloging. Julian's hand was on her thigh. Elise was looking at him like I stopped existing the moment she met him. The same smile she used to save for me when I brought home lemon cake from that bakery downtown. Now repurposed, regifted. The photo was dated in the corner. 2 weekends ago. The weekend she claimed her mom needed emotional support after a shoulder surgery that never happened. The back of the photo still burned in my palm. That word, ouch, written like an inside joke. As if betrayal were a game and I was just now catching up to the score. Well, if Elise wanted clarity, she was going to get it. In high-def, surround sound, and emotionally bulletproof packaging. That night, I drove to Liam's. He lived in a loft above a hardware store, still thought air fryers were magic, and kept his laundry in a pile labeled cleanish. But he was loyal. And more importantly, he was invested now. I slid the Polaroid across his coffee table. He picked it up slowly like it might bite him. Wow, he muttered. She really went full cliché, huh? Cabin in the woods. I nodded. Must have missed the part where she signed up for a Hallmark infidelity package. Liam tilted his head. You sure you don't want to blow it all up? Confront her. Burn the house down emotionally. Make a scene at brunch? I don't want loud, I said. I want lasting. He grinned. Psychological warfare. I like it. What's the plan? I leaned back on his couch, staring up at the exposed beams. They think I'm stupid, I said quietly. They think this will end with some speech about heartbreak and healing. That I'll walk away and they'll get to skip the aftermath. Liam raised an eyebrow. And instead, I looked at him. Calm. Clear. They're going to feel everything they handed me. But slowly. Thoughtfully. With return receipts. Step 1 was simple. I cleaned the house. I don't mean tidying. I mean erased myself from every corner Elise hadn't already claimed. Books I knew she never noticed. Boxed. Photos with her arms wrapped around me. Digitally backed up. Then deleted from every shared album. Even the playlist we made during that trip to Asheville, gone. You'd be amazed how quickly a shared life becomes one-sided when you start subtracting. I left just enough to make it look like nothing had changed. The illusion of normal. The facade she was counting on. I wanted her to notice only when it was too late. Step 2, leverage. Remember Julian's photo exhibit? Turns out his creative retreats weren't just lakeside cabins. They were sponsored. A little digging revealed his latest gig was partially funded by a lifestyle brand that prized wholesome storytelling and modern family values. Cute. Even cuter? The fact that I found an old marketing deck from his cloud folder. Publicly accessible, no password, rookie mistake. That listed his core audience as emotionally aspirational women, 30 to 45, seeking grounded intimacy. Which is industry speak for don't get caught sleeping with married clients. I made a burner email and sent that Polaroid directly to the brand's head of partnerships. No commentary. No threats. Just the image. Professional courtesy, really. Step 3 was timing. Elise got back Sunday night. I was sitting on the porch, sipping lemonade. The kind she always said was too tart. The kind I secretly started buying again once I knew she was buying sweet from someone else. She walked up the steps, suitcase rolling behind her, sunglasses still on even though the sun had clocked out an hour ago. You okay? She asked, voice light. Perfect, I said. She blinked. You clean the porch. I smiled. Felt like shedding some weight. She kissed my forehead, a gesture so empty now it practically echoed, and stepped inside. I watched her pause at the entryway, the subtle changes registering. The bookshelf, the hallway, the lighting. Like a woman who just realized the painting she stole had been replaced with a replica. She didn't say anything. She never did when something wasn't quite right. She preferred pretending things were. Which worked out. Because I was pretending too. That night, I made her favorite pasta. Left the basil whole, the way she likes it. We ate in near silence. Then, as she stood to put her plate in the sink, I said casually, "How's your mom doing?" She froze. Just for a beat. Better, she said. Tired. I nodded. Hope she enjoyed the cabin. Her eyes flicked to mine. What? You said she needed rest. Just figured a cabin would be perfect for that. A pause. A blink. Then her phone buzzed. She picked it up. Read something. Her face shifted. Micro-expression of panic. That half-second delay before someone lies. Excuse me, she muttered, walking to the hallway. I didn't ask who it was. I already knew. At 11:04 p.m., Elise came back into the room. Her arms were folded. Her voice too calm. Did you send something to someone at Julian's company? I looked up from my laptop and shrugged. Depends, I said. Do they prefer JPG or PNG? She stood in the doorway like someone waiting for a hurricane to stop spinning. Elijah. Her voice was sharper now, stripped of charm. That email was a violation. I looked up from the sofa, remote in hand. The game was muted on the screen, players frozen mid-action like they knew something else had taken center stage. A violation? I repeated. That's an interesting word choice. She crossed her arms. Whatever this is, this petty sabotage, it's going to backfire. I leaned back, calm, almost casual. You're right. Petty things do backfire. Which is why I made sure nothing about that email was petty. She stared at me like she was trying to measure just how far I'd drifted from the version of me she used to manage with a smile and a tight schedule. Elijah, she said again. This time lower. Less sure. But I wasn't giving her the confrontation she wanted. That was her home turf, arguments, tears, dramatic exits. No, I was giving her the thing she never anticipated, control with a quiet grin. I have a meeting early tomorrow, I said, setting the remote down. Shouldn't you be packing for your next workshop with Julian? Or are those canceled now? Her jaw clenched. And in that tiny movement, I saw it, the first flicker of doubt. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. Perfect. The next morning, Elise didn't speak. She left early, keys clinking in her hand like a countdown. I heard her heels on the walkway, faster than usual. No humming. Progress. I poured myself coffee and went back to the laptop. The security consultant Liam put me in touch with had come through. I had a report waiting, Julian's public records, financial disclosures, some messages from clients that hinted at past improprieties, but nothing overt. The cherry on top? A copyright claim filed against Julian last year by a former attendee. Apparently, he'd published a photo of her in an exhibit without consent. Settled quietly. NDA. Classic. But most interesting of all, he wasn't just dating Elise. He was still married. Estranged, technically. Not divorced. Not legally free. Now that was leverage Elise didn't even know she didn't have. Around noon, I visited our shared storage unit. We had it for seasonal junk and keepsakes, decorations, yearbooks, wedding stuff. I wasn't there for nostalgia. I was there for the file box labeled 2008 to 2014 documents. Receipts, contracts, printed emails. Buried beneath tax forms and insurance claims, I found it. Our joint investment paperwork. The cabin. Yes, that cabin. Purchased 3 years ago under both our names. It had been our dream once, a quiet getaway we could grow old into. Elise never wanted to go after the first few weekends, said it was too quiet. Now, she was using it to whisper other people's names. I smiled. Technically, she'd been taking another man to my property. That wasn't betrayal. That was trespassing. That evening, she came home earlier than expected. I heard her heels pause at the door. She lingered there, keys in hand, before walking in like a woman who'd rehearsed 3 versions of a speech and still wasn't happy with any of them. Elijah, she began. Just one SEC, I said, typing something. Finishing an email to the real estate attorney. She blinked. Real estate. What? I turned to her. You've been using the cabin. I figured it was time to sell. She opened her mouth. Closed it. It's in both our names, I added. So I figured I should get involved. We never drew up usage terms. Technically, any overnight stays require joint consent. Her face lost color. You're not serious. I nodded. Completely. Unless you want to argue ownership. No, she snapped, stepping forward. You're doing this out of spite. I stood, calm, still in control. I'm doing this because I'm allowed to. And because apparently, I added, Julian doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. Still married, isn't he? Funny how that works. She froze. Silence stretched between us like a rubber band. Taut, trembling. I didn't know, she whispered. He said he was separated. And I said I was happy, I replied. We were both lying. She didn't cry. That would have made her feel like she had the moral high ground. She just stood there, stuck somewhere between denial and damage control. Do you want a divorce? She asked, almost robotic. Eventually, I said. But not today. Why not? Because you're not ready to suffer yet. She looked up sharply. Excuse me. I want you to live in this house. Sleep in this bed. Pour coffee into a mug I chose. I want you to feel how quiet it is without trust in the room. She stared, speechless. Eventually, I added, I'll leave. Clean, quiet, gone. But first, I want you to walk past reminders that you underestimated me, that you thought I wouldn't notice, that you thought I'd fall apart. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence had drained from her posture. I loved you, she said softly. I nodded. And I filed the paperwork to remove you from the cabin's insurance policy yesterday. That night, while Elise slept in the guest room, I opened a second email account. One created months ago. It already had 3 unread messages, all from Julian's wife. The subject line on the newest one, if you're ready to talk, I'm listening. Julian's wife's name was Lacey. Her emails were short, purposeful. No fluff, no hysteria. Just a woman who'd clearly moved past the sobbing on the bathroom floor stage and graduated into vengeance with a degree in emotional forensics. Her first message read, I know who you are, and I know what Elise is. We met at a coffee shop on the east side. Neutral ground. Lacey wore all black, her hair tied back like she didn't have time for drama. Just truth. He's been pulling this act for years, she said, stirring her drink without sipping it. Creative partner, emotional connection, all that soulmate nonsense. But it's always the same. A woman in a gray marriage, a man with good lighting and no conscience. I nodded. And you? She shrugged. I used to be Elise. Before him. She slid a flash drive across the table. Emails. Voice notes. One particularly poetic message he sent a woman in Oregon. He recycled it for your wife. I raised an eyebrow. I found it on both their phones. Word for word, she said. Like a seduction template. This is personal for you, I said. No, she said, standing. This is precise. As she left, I knew 2 things. Julian was a serial charmer with a savior complex. Lacey wasn't here for closure. She was here for the autopsy. That night, I opened the flash drive. The first file was a recording. Julian's voice. She still thinks I'm separated. These women always want to be rescued. Makes them easier to replace. The next morning, Elise was cheerful. Overcompensating. She made waffles. Waffles. Thought we could eat together, she chirped, placing a plate in front of me like we hadn't both been nuclear the night before. I sat down, smiled, played along. Sure. Looks great. You seem different, she said. I slept well. What I didn't say was, because I spent 3 hours transferring every piece of Julian's garbage to a shared drive titled Elise, Clarity. I sent her the link after breakfast. No message. No warning. She opened it on her phone right there at the kitchen counter. I watched her face change in layers. Confusion, recognition, denial, and finally, impact. That's not real, she whispered. Really? I said, sipping coffee. Because it sounds a lot like your boyfriend. Especially the part where he calls you a placeholder until his divorce is finalized. She turned pale. He told me she left him. He tells everyone that. She didn't speak for a long time. She just stood there, clutching her phone like it could somehow protect her from the truth inside it. I didn't gloat. There was nothing left to win. Now it was just clean up. Later that night, she tried to log into our shared cloud drive. The password had been changed. I left a note on her pillow. This is what clarity looks like. She tried to apologize. Tried the soft voice. The watery eyes. I didn't know how far it had gone routine. I let her. She talked for 10 minutes straight. About confusion, loneliness, regret. When she finally asked, "Do you believe me?" I paused and said, "I believe you want me to." That silence hit harder than any accusation could. She slept in the guest room again. Or at least, she tried. Meanwhile, I was printing the paperwork. Trust revisions. Property division documents. Financial accounts transitioned to new passwords. She was still reeling, still trying to spin plates in her head while the table had already been packed and stored. By Friday, she asked, "Are you telling people?" "No," I said. "I'm letting them figure it out." She blinked. "They'll ask why you're not in the Christmas photo, why your name's no longer on the deed, why I changed emergency contacts. You're punishing me." "No," I said. "I'm just updating the cast list. This story has a new lead now." Saturday morning, I posted a photo of the cabin. Caption: "Sometimes peace looks like a one-person weekend." She liked it, then unliked it, then deleted her account. 3 weeks later, I got a call from my attorney. "Elijah," she said, "you sure about the clause?" "Absolutely." The clause was simple. If Elise contests the trust revision or attempts to claim emotional damages, she forfeits her rights to all remaining shared assets, including the cabin. I mailed her a copy. Certified. Signature required. She never signed. But she also never called. Because she knew. She knew it was over in a way no apology or monologue could fix. Lacey sent me a thank you message. Apparently, Julian had lost 2 brand deals and had gone off social media. I told her she should write a book. She said, "I already have the title. Unbound." Perfect. 1 month after she moved out, Elise left one last thing in the mailbox. A letter. 3 pages. Apology, regret, some nostalgia. At the end, she wrote, "You didn't destroy me. You erased me. It's amazing what silence can do. The house is quieter now, not empty, just still. Even the air feels less performative. I kept the lemon cake candle she always hated. I light it sometimes, out of principle. The cabin's mine again. I go there on weekends. No cameras. No tricks. No ghosts. Just the sound of my own choices." Elise hasn't contacted me since the letter. Julian vanished from her life like smoke from a cheap candle. Sometimes people ask what happened. I say, she left the story before the plot made sense. I stayed and rewrote the ending. Because revenge wasn't loud. It was measured. It was exact. It was permanent. She thought I would break. Instead, I rebuilt. And made sure she'd see the architecture of her own consequences every time she closed her eyes.